Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives Podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by Michael Cruz, founder of Foresight Insurance. Michael, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Excited to chop it up with you again. Always enjoy our conversations, and I seem to learn something every time we get together. So, looking forward to this one. Michael is the principal of Foresight Insurance, a forward-thinking independent agency serving Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Since launching in 2016, he's built Foresight Insurance into an award-winning operation, most recently earning Liberty Mutual's most outstanding agency overall in 2024. Michael also serves on Erie's Insurance Sales and Marketing Task Force, helping shape national strategies for agency performance and customer experience. Beyond Foresight, he is the COO of Virtual Intelligence, a company that provides virtual staffing, consulting, and technology solutions to insurance agencies. Outside of work, he enjoys cycling, personal development, and helping insurance agencies succeed in an ever-changing insurance industry. Mike, thanks again for being here. Thanks for joining us. To get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about Foresight Insurance, what you guys focus on, and just, a little bit of background of your business.
We're located in Maryland, about 25 minutes from Washington, D.C. in North Bethesda. We're about a 10-year-old agency as of 2026. We're hybrid. We have a combination of, we do have a physical office, but we also have our team working, hybrid. And we also have a team, in Colombia that we use for our service support.
Okay. What kind of business you focus on? You mostly personal, commercial?
We do a combination. We're probably 70-80% personal and 20-30% commercial. What we're really trying to focus on is on the small business owner. That way we can capture, we feel like they're the underserved target market, especially the smaller ones, so that we can do all of their personal policies, all of their commercial policies. And we feel like we're equipped to provide a better service for that type of clientele.
One of the reasons I always enjoy our conversations is that, you are constantly evolving, constantly analyzing your business, looking for ways to improve. Something that you looked at starting and implemented for your business a while back now, which was a huge adjustment, was the 4-day work week. Talk a little bit about why you did that, and then kind of what that transition was like. And now that it's been some time, how it's going now.
Yeah, we started a 4-day work week in May 2024. So this year will be our 2 years doing it. Really thankful for the longevity of that program because it was a very ambitious goal. And I did it in 2024 because I was already a year into the heart market and I saw it. My staff was burned out. Every day was dealing with really difficult conversations, rude customers that they never experienced this kind of rate increases, non-renewals. So I figure like I don't have more money to pay my staff. I can't. There's only but so much money that you're gonna pay somebody that they're gonna be able to be motivated. So what are other ways that we can do this? And time off was the next thing that I can think of. A lot of agencies are so short-staffed and so overwhelmed that they kind of frown upon the time off. There's always a problem to take time off, but people need it. People need the time off to recharge, even ourselves as any agency owners, to disconnect, recharge, so you can come back and kind of, empty the cup so you can fill it up again. So after doing some research of like, what can I do? I kind of landed on time off and I kind of landed on the 4-day work week. And I went on this really rabbit hole on the 4-day work week. And what I found is that there were many articles and videos and books that talked about the benefits, but nobody really gave you a blueprint on how to do it. Thankfully, as I was going through this process, a lot of the things that I already built allowed me to do the 4-day work week. Like we were on a share inbox. We use one email, one phone number. We service as a team and not individual, account managers to assign to clients. So we were set up to be basically for someone to not be in the office once a week and not miss a beat. So, now almost 2 years into it, what I can tell you that we learned is that it was like a roller coaster. It was like really happy, and then a lot of challenges, and then fixing and measuring and tweaking. Where I landed on is that at the end of the day, the 4-day work week is a privilege, just like a driver's license is a privilege. Is not something mandatory. It's earned. So how do you earn it? You earn it by being productive, because now you have to do the 5 days of work in four. And we've been tracking it. And what we found is that you can do 5 days of work in four, because a lot of our agencies, we're very inefficient. A lot of us, you and I talked about it. We had processes that we don't, we really shouldn't be doing. So what it really forces us to do is, like, you have to get your work done in 4 days. So what happens with that? You become more productive. You do more. So the fascinating thing is that we were doing the same amount of activity in terms of calls and tasks and emails on a 4-day work week that we were doing in a 5-day work week. And we basically, I use it as a leverage for my team to help them get to the next level, and kind of do the things that I've always wanted to do as an agency owner, but I never really had the leverage to kind of push on that to get it done. And thanks to the 4-day work week, people they realize, what, I do want to keep that benefit, and it makes sense why I have to do this to keep this benefit.
There's so many benefits to have it for our employees to have a 4-day work week. It's a value add. It's love that extra time off. Talk a little bit about some of the difficulties that you encountered. Like you said, there's not really a blueprint that you're able to find. So you don't know where the problem areas are sometimes until you get into it and get through it. And then you, as a leader that has to continue to think on it and how to fix these trouble areas, whether it's implementing other processes or just adjusting things. Talk a little bit about some of the growing pains and going through that.
We found a lot of the holes in it as we were doing it. So you can have the perfect plan, but when you actually do it, that's when you find out where the holes are. And sometimes finding those holes it's not an easy thing, because they come through complaints from customers. They come through losing customers. And some of the challenges that we had is that we had to have a system in place. If you were working on something and your day off is tomorrow, how do we make sure that that thing is done? So it forced us to create consistency around how we document, how we do procedures, because I didn't want the problem we kept running into. Well, this person does it that way, and this person does it this
Yeah.
way. I don't want to touch their task, because then they come back and they're mad at me because I didn't do it the way I was supposed to. I'm like, that is not scalable. So we had to really hone down since 2024 and looking at every process of our agency and creating a standard, documenting it, and say, hey guys, this is the way we're going to do it, so that if anybody picks it up, they can finish it. And every time you touch a customer, there has to be a trail. Put your notes in, like, somebody else that had no context can pick up exactly where you left off. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a lot of little things, like, for example, like keeping your tasks updated. We had a lot of people with overdue tasks in HawkSoft. What we found is that we had to get tougher on people. Like, if your tasks are out of date, we have no idea if you're falling behind, if you're overwhelmed. So now I can confidently tell you, if I pull up my HawkSoft right now, most people have their task updated, because it forces you to look at your task. Another thing with sales, we had to, like, bring the sales, email into our share inbox, because before sales were kind of having their own emails, and we were doing the share inbox only on the service side. Now we do it on sales from the beginning, and that helps, because then when the sales rep is out, the other one can kind of help answering emails and maybe even binding a policy if they have to. And I was able to use the 4-day work week as a leverage to be able to get the sales team. We know how it is with sales. It's not an easy thing to get them to do certain things. So thankfully, that was a rough kind of transition, but I'm so glad we did it, because we wouldn't be able to go back.
I'd imagine it just made you so much stronger as a team, because in that, what you're talking about with the processes, but you have to get your people to over communicate, essentially, like, everything, because I'm going to be out tomorrow, so this has to be done. And so that's extra work, from your perspective as the leader, to say, maybe Susie's really good at communicating, but maybe Tanmi's just kind of lacking in that area. So you really have to hone in on those little things.
That's exactly what we found out. Especially for the sales teams, they were living in their own silos. They've told me, Michael, I realized we were not communicating enough, especially being remote or being hybrid. You don't see each other, so it really forced them to, communicate in terms of how they do things, how the processes work, the philosophies, the procedures. And we're a stronger team now because of it. It wasn't a pill that you activate and boom, everything is fixed. It was a process to get the team there, but it forced us to collaborate more than ever before.
So you got that going in 2024, and I know you and I have discussed this, and we are very similar in this way. 2024 was difficult, and then I just kind of feel like 2025 came along, was like, hold my beer. We're going to make things tough for you
Very
this
true.
year. So you and I had very similar experiences. 2025. You've been very candid about 2025 being, one of, if not the most difficult year of your career. Talk a little bit about what the challenges were for last year, and then also, how your team felt that, and then how you manage that as a leader.
I've been trying to and as I was talking to you about it recently, just trying to consume all this. Like, hey, what happened? Where are we today? And what can we do to move forward? Right. I think it was just too many things happening at the same time. It was like the
Yeah,
perfect storm of things.
yeah,
It really made it difficult to retain clients, retain staff, and even just make this like a career that you can enjoy to go to work every day, because it was that challenging day in and day out. I think it really started with kind of like the speed that the hard market came, how quickly the markets shut down, and then how quickly like carriers were trying to basically not write business
yeah.
and at the same time get rid of business. So like if you had a book of business you were trying to move somewhere else, it was almost impossible to move that book. So, you were just bleeding clients, spinning your wheels, having the very difficult conversations with people. So I think at the end of the day, we just have to realize like, look, it was a market condition thing. That doesn't mean throw your hands up and you don't do nothing about it. I really think it made us better at our jobs. Like I don't think we've talked about reinsurance so much before. I don't
Yeah.
think we talked about how rates work, how so I think my team became a better, more prepared, for the soft market to have better conversations. Before someone called, oh, my rate went up, we would kind of, like a knee-jerk reaction to reshop it, where now we take into a process. Hey, I'm so glad you called. Let's pull up your policy to make sure that your information is up to date. Let's make sure you're taking advantage of all your available discounts. Let's review all your coverages to see if you want to make any changes. And then after we go through that, then we talk about what are the next options. But I think it really forced us to become better at what we do, but it wasn't an easy journey to get there. We had this false sense of growth that happened with this hard market, where the premiums increase, even though it was more work, harder work, but nevertheless, we were making more money as an agency, because this renewal increases. But now, as the dust settle and you start looking at things, you realize, oh crap, like my PIF has been down for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
As these rate decreases start coming in, how is that going to affect my revenue? So that's kind of the journey that we've been going through, of like learn what we can from the hard market and how do we capitalize on the soft market.
The good news is, at least my feeling, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're going to see that this year. And so I've been trying to pivot to, okay, let's get back into growth mode. Like I'm always in, you're the same way, of, just always in growth mode. It's just how we're wired. So what's been so challenging is that we've been playing so much defense the last couple of years. We're trying to move the ball forward and we're just going nowhere. And to your point, kind of actually going backwards, which is really, really frustrating. So, talk about your thoughts on 2026, and what would winning look like for Foresight for this year?
What my strategy is taking the learning lessons from the hard market and some of the best practices from the hard market and continue doing that, and really take that to the next level. So, like, for example, like we started with the hard market pre-qualifying really, really hard, because we knew that if we didn't, we would waste our time quoting all this business. So when I looked at my numbers in 2025, was it 2025? We quoted half of the volume that we quoted in 2024, yet we wrote the same amount of premium. I mean, the savings on that are ridiculous, because if you think about how much labor it takes to do a quote, is never just a quote, and then you have to go in so many different systems, and the intake, and then trying to get the client on the phone is a very labor intensive process. So we learn, like, what are the deal breaker questions that if, like, for example, if I know your roof hasn't been updated in 20 years, and you're asking for property insurance, like, that is the first question I need to ask you, because that disqualifies everything else. So, like, getting smarter with, like, asking the right questions up front, so that we can have an honest conversation with the prospect and say, hey, I don't have any good markets for you, because based on this answer. We've also, since 2024, really been more consistent and intentional with smart cycling, or X
Yeah.
dating, what they call it in our business, because we found that in the hard market, there was limited appetite for carriers to want to write business, and we had a good prospect. But just because we didn't win it now doesn't mean it's not a good prospect. So maybe out of 10 people, maybe three that we quoted, we didn't win, but they were actually good clients that we wanted to keep. So we started, being intentional with smart cycling. So the good thing with Agency Zoom, every day you get a report, so you can see how many leads came in, how many you smart cycle, how many you label dead. So I look at that number, and I want to see a volume of smart cycle leads every single day and every single week, because that sets us up for success. I think last time I checked, we were like in the 400s of our smart cycle leads. I mean, just think about it, Brad. If we started doing this from, when we started agencies to now, how
Right.
long would that
Oh
list
man.
be? We'll never have to buy a lead again. And then think about the time that you save. Like, when you call back that lead, you're not doing a full intake. You're asking a brief questions like, "Hey, do you still drive this car and this driver?" So you're saving also on the intake. So to me, it's like working smarter. 2026 is one of my goals. The smart cycling, also the win back. We've lost so many policies in the last 2 years. So we started, systematically. We look at the account, look at the claims history, look at how much does this person call our agency. If it's a good client, like, we smart cycle it. If it's a trouble client, maybe not. We found somebody in our team. We try like three different people. We found somebody in our team that's good at outbound calling. So we have that person doing those outbound calls. We have them time block. We pay, bonuses, commissions for them to do those outbound calls. I feel like for us is that strategy of, like, grabbing those habits that we've learned from the heart market, and then just doing the right habits, being disciplined with those habits, so that you don't need to work any necessarily harder, but just smarter.
Just to back up a little bit, for those that don't know, when you are referring to smart cycle, talk about maybe a little bit in more detail what that looks like, what that
Yeah.
is.
So let's say we quote somebody, and this person has no claims, no accidents. You have the home, the auto, the umbrella. Like, this is a really good client that, unfortunately, maybe they have better pricing where they are right now, and you just don't have a market that can even come close. We get those, and we basically set a diary to follow up with them, whether it's 6 months or a year. Also, let's say somebody that has a claim, and that claim is about to hit the 3-year mark in a year. We X dated based on that claim, so that, because that claim savings is not going to be seen by that client until the policy renews. So if we can reach out before the policy renews, we'll see it on our rating. He won't see it, he or she won't see it until it renews. I think you just have to kind of get smart, and kind of see what are the patterns, and be creative of, like, the timing of when you call those X dates, so that you have a higher chance of closing them.
And then how is your win back program set up?
It's probably not as defined. I've really kind of left my team to analyze the account. Um, you know, like, look at the claims history, look at how many times they're calling the agency. So, like, in HawkSoft, I'll go to my tasks. If I see like 20 tasks, I mean, I'm exaggerating, right? In the last 365 days, that's not an account I want to smart cycle and try to win back, because they're a very service heavy client. That's not the only metric, right? We look at claims, we look at the relationship. We also know as the CSRs know, is this a client that gives us a headache every time they call, like where you gasp when the phone, when their caller ID pops up. So I don't have as defined, for win back yet, but that's also something we've been doing, I would say, for the past year.
I think it's so smart. Insurance, it's still a numbers game, and this, to your point, gives you massive numbers, like you said, for years of hey, it didn't work out in 2025. Let's try them in 2026. We have their information. We'd like them as a client. You pre-qualified them. They fit in your avatar. For your salespeople that need leads, they have them. We have ours, set up. As we talked about the other day, we don't necessarily have the automated win back set up, which, we really need to do. To be able to do that, we've been, doing it for years now, where they go back into our sales pipeline. They automatically receive an email to kind of trigger that conversation, set up a task for that sales agent to give them a call. We have the tools, to be able to use them. I think that really gives us a leg up, addition with our other avenues, that we're getting, the business, loan officer referrals, Google ads, whatever it is. We need all those avenues, to grow. And that's what our goal is. So I think that's great. That's great stuff. Transitioning a little bit into some of the tech, in the past, you've talked about what a big supporter you are of HawkSoft. Talk about some of the features that you're using within HawkSoft that you really like.
What we started doing is really doubling down and making HawkSoft our basically source of truth. And what that looks like is basically all emails that we get. You know how, with the share inbox, that's been one benefit, by the way. A lot of people are managing their email like a to-do list. So they'll leave emails unread to get to at a later time. But they also have their task list and they have the reminders. So it's like, it's really messy. So with the share inbox, I noticed that. So what we did is we implemented basically a standard that, hey guys, within 4 hours of getting an email, it has to go into HawkSoft. If it's an email you can reply in 2 minutes, just reply back. If it's something that's going to require you to do an actual task, then you set up the task in HawkSoft. So HawkSoft for us has been really helpful as an agency to see the task management workload, how many tasks are pending, how many are being worked on, how many have been completed. And every day we take a screenshot, we go, volume by producer, and then we go volume by type of task. So I can see how many renewals we're working on, how many vehicle changes. So I feel like from a numbers perspective, it's helped us to better manage the workload and kind of see if people are falling behind and make sure that the workload is being distributed, fairly. We also been using a lot of the agency intelligence reports, which they just launched, the historical. That's really, Brad, how I found out that we were shrinking the policy count. When you see kind of the 3-year, mark, it really shows you, even by month, how, the policy count, the customer count. I'm also exporting all kinds of reports from the quick reports. And I'm able to kind of feed that data to AI and have AI, analyze large sets of data sets and able to generate reports that I can actually understand. So like understanding, like for example, I downloaded the cancellation list yesterday, and I was able to feed it in, and I found out that 24% of the customers we were losing were like 3 to 5 year customers. I would have never been able to decipher that,
Wow.
if I just kind of look at the cancellation list. But there's a lot of little things that have completely game changed our productivity. For example, like the fact that we can have a linkable, I can share with you a profile. Like if I'm chatting with you on Teams and I can send you the link of that profile to HawkSoft, that you don't have to go and search the name. That little things like that, like really drive the needle in terms of like working faster and smarter. Anytime someone contacts me about a question or something, I'm like, please send me the HawkSoft profile, because that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to open it up. I love the copy and paste. Like you can almost any field like copy and paste. You click on the name, it'll copy the name. So it's funny because there's a lot of like little things that are functionalities that are such a time saving thing. And now we've been kind of playing around with some of the API stuff. Like we have basically my one of my developers basically figure out in our share inbox, we're able to show based on the email, show the client profile. So let's say that you're Brad, my client, you email me, I'm able to now show your profile in HawkSoft in my share inbox. It just shares a link. So when I click on it, it takes me to the HawkSoft profile. Before, if you email me Brad as a customer, I'll have to go and search Brad, Boldt, and then see, if there's like a ton of Brad Boldts, I'm screwed. I think the open access to the APIs, we're also able to get our emails from our share inbox directly into HawkSoft, so we don't have to drag and drop anymore. It's just like, man, I'm just so excited for 2026 for HawkSoft, because I've also felt like a lot of features that I've requested in the community within a few months. Like, for example, you know how you can have the tag when you put a log and you can put a tag?
Yeah.
You can search tags. That
Yeah.
was a feature request that we provided as an agency. That was my
Yeah.
operations manager, like, oh man, I have to scroll all the way down every time. And she's like, it would be great if we have a search feature. I put it up, and little do you know, in like a month or two, boom, we have that feature. So
They're improving every week. And one of the thing I've tasked someone in my office to do is to research what the updates are, because if you don't do that, you're going to miss some things that can help you. You made reference to accessing basically your data to measure things, to measure it as a scorecard, see how we're doing. I don't know that a lot of agencies are doing that, and it's so helpful. We have to know our numbers, and that can only make us better. The information is there, and they are providing it to us. It's really, there's a lot of data that we have access to. I'm really, really, really grateful to it. I shared one with you the other day that I had no idea that we had a hole in our system. I was able to see one of our sales agents had a pretty low policies per household. Well, that enabled me to try and find a fix for that and then measure that. I never would have had that if we didn't have access to it. So it's a lot of great information in there. You shared a lot of really, really good ones.
and I like to mention, also give a shout out on the commission reconciliation. I feel like it's under talked about. Like, a lot of people, they want the flashy things, but to me, as an agency owner, once you're established, you really find out there's like some core things that you need your management system to do it right every single time. One of them is commission reconciliation. I feel like HawkSoft does a really good job at making it very easy to reconcile commissions. And then for me, what I started doing, Brad, like 4 years ago, and I might have told you this, I basically have an Excel that I do where I track revenue, like commission, not bonuses, but like true commissions, by month, by new, rewrite, and renewal. And then I do the same thing by producer. And I can do that with HawkSoft very easily, where like, you see it all the time. A lot of people complain that the commission reconciliation with other carriers is not as good with other AMSs. I'm sorry.
You made reference to AI, and you and I have talked a little bit about AI in the past. Give us your thoughts on AI, how you might be utilizing it, and just your overall philosophy at this point. It's basically the hottest topic in our industry. It's definitely a shiny object that we have. So what are your thoughts on AI at this point?
The biggest challenge that we're all facing is how do we translate that into actual productivity into our agencies to makes us do more with less, run a leaner agency, make our people more productive so they can do more high value things. So I think right now where we are is like the hype is here and the capabilities are here. So for me, and Sean actually said this at IndieTech in the panel. He was like, a lot of people are going backwards. They're trying to see what's out there and then see what that thing out there solves. Where we should be doing is, let's look at the problems that we have and then look for an AI tool that solves those problems. But people are going out, they don't even know what problem they're trying to solve. Understanding like the fundamentals of business doesn't change, and just testing to see what really drives the needle. And you know what the crazy thing is? Sometimes the productivity is like hiding in front of our faces. And they're so subtle that they're not sexy. Like the API thing that I told you about, that we don't have to go look for the name, that's not sexy. But if you're looking at 100 profiles a day, how much time is your team
Right.
saving on looking? The same thing applies. There's a tool called Whisper, which I know HawkSoft have shown it. Like basically, Microsoft has kind of built it voice to text feature. I think you hit like Windows H and you can talk into it. But we know that sometimes we can make mistakes when we talk. Well, Whisper, there's some AI apps that now you can talk through them and it cleans it up for you. It adds the right grammar, the right punctuation. Um, so what I found is that we type at probably 30 to 40 words per minute, but we talk at 120, 150 words per minute. Instead of, like, for example, typing an email, you can basically dictate an email. Instead of typing a note after you finish a call, you can dictate a note after you finish the call. When you're talking to AI, we use AI a lot now. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini is very like slow to type, where you can have a conversation and have it being transcribed. So we're just trying to find like the little wins that are going to
Mhm.
move the needle, but at the same time it's like we're trying to be very cautious on the budget because we don't have unlimited
Right.
budgets. We're a smaller agency, so I think what happens is that tech bill, just all these monthly things keep adding up, but then our revenue is not really increasing. Our headcount is still the same. So I think it's just constantly stress testing these tools. Is it really adding value? Is it really helping me write more policies, retain more policies with less staff? Can my staff free up time to do more high value things like having conversations about account reviews and cross selling? So that's kind of what my take is. I think it's just you just have to be a student of it. It's moving fast, and you just want to keep your eyes on it. Keep trying things out to see what works.
Well put. I agree 100%. What you said, a couple key things: stress test and be a student of it. I agree. That's where we have to be right now. If you have something that's making you more efficient right now, fantastic. To your point, I believe there is a lot of hype, but we need to kind of keep our finger on the pulse, so that when those efficient programs do come out that really really move the needle, we're closer to it.
Just to kind of name a few things of how we're using it, we basically double down on our SOPs for the last 2 years, like basically documenting everything we do. Little did we know that has been tremendous with AI, because when we install the chatbot inside of our intranet, now you don't have to remember which folder this SOP is on. You can simply talk to the chatbot and say, hey, how do you add a card in this carrier? Is going to give you the answer in a way ChatGPT does, but is only based on your knowledge base, and is going to reference the link. So like chatbots are really good, like Copilot. I don't know how good it is. I haven't tried it recently, but if you're in a Microsoft ecosystem, Copilot might be great for that. If you're in a Google ecosystem, Gemini might be great for that. So I think it's also looking at your internal tools. Like for example, Ring Central has the AI transcription. You finish a call, it gives you the notes summary. Like those little things are like what we need to be looking at. Like, do we have a tool? Does that tool have AI? And trying to understand how to best use those tools.
Yeah. Yeah, well put. I think that's a good place for us to wrap up. A lot of great information. No surprise. Coming from Mr. Cruz. I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your time.